Okay, so there we go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start the presentation. If you know, you're welcome to mute yourselves if you think there's any background noise or anything like that. We'd appreciate that. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead. Grace and I are going to go ahead and have a conversation here, and hopefully everybody can enjoy. And I hope everybody has their favorite glass of wine or beer if you prefer beer. But you know,
We can't even
this is a
see
wine cruise,
here.
so we are featuring wine tonight. So we'll talk a little bit about the wines as well. And now I'm going to share my screen. There we go. There's Grace in the corner there. Okay, so can everybody see the screen?
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So let's go through. This is the name of the itineraries, the Melodies of the Danube. That's that we name our itineraries. Let me just see here. Yeah, okay. And Grace's business is Pineapple7. Grace, do you want to take a moment and talk about your business, about your travel business?
Yeah, as some of you, I think all of you know, I have my own travel company, Pineapple7, and what I do is I design trips that you can't Google. One of my focuses is on culinary, and so I design, curate, and partner with suppliers to create elevated experiences, provide people with access to different places. And for something like this, Melodies of the Danube with AmaWaterways, I want to taste and toast my way through Europe. And what I liked about this specific cruise and about Ama was that it gave me a chance to not only see castles, but then enjoy gourmet dining, taste local wines, go hiking. There were just so many ways for me to be able to not only experience a lot of countries, but also taste a lot of the flavors. And I think that's the best way to experience a destination or a region. And so I'm so excited that you all are here today to learn about AmaWaterways and our fall 2022 cruise.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, let's continue here. That's me in the corner there. I am the BDM up here in New England. I think most of you are in different parts of the country than where I am sitting right now. I'm in Massachusetts. We do start our presentations by talking about the quote that one of our owners penned: "Oceans take you to countries and rivers take you through them." And that means basically that a river cruise is nothing like an ocean cruise. They're apples and oranges. River cruises tend to be much more culturally immersive. And this is the idea is that the ship is your floating hotel, and you can get on and off the ship as many times as you like. All your meals are included. All the excursions are included in the pricing. And we take care of everything for you: the air, the transfers. If you want to do pre and post stays, you'd arrange that with Grace. So it is really a different type of experience than an ocean cruise. And it's not something that competes with an ocean cruise. It's something that we feel is a better way of seeing these old, wonderful old medieval towns and port cities along the rivers, the ancient rivers in Europe, than say a motor coach program or a rail tour, let's say. So that's really what a river cruise is. It's a much more comfortable, easy way to see these older parts of Europe. Now we're going to do, we will drink a toast here. Grace, do you want to handle the toast or?
Yeah, you know what? Definitely. So my dad, a lot of you know, my dad was a quote person. And I ran into one of his quotes today when I was looking through his folders, and it said that life is too short and your time is valuable. Laugh hard, live truly, hold on to your dreams, and travel. So cheers to collecting new memories and enjoying fine wine. Cheers to meeting new friends, living our dreams, and being choosy with our time. And I'm so glad you all are here tonight.
Yes.
Cheers. Cheers.
Okay, that was good. And Grace, just so you know, I saw your video on Facebook today, and
Ah,
you
yes.
referred the I had given you a couple of recommendations. The Gruner Veltliner. I was going to drink a Riesling tonight, but when I
Mhm.
saw that you had bought the Gruner, I have now switched to Gruner. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah,
I got the
yeah,
Gruner
I've got a
Veltliner.
similar one here. So, okay, so let's get on with this. Grace, you mentioned earlier that maybe not a lot of people know who we are. So I do include this slide so people can at least understand who we are, and also understand why they don't see us maybe on television all the time. But so these are the owners. It's a family-owned and operated river cruise company. Three very prominent families, left to right. Gary Murphy is my boss. In the middle is the lovely Christine Karst. And to her right is Rudy Schreiner. That's her husband. They're married. Rudy is the central character, the central person to our history and who we are. And in the 1980s, there was a company, back then it was called Uniworld Tours. They were a tour operator, and they heard about Rudy because he's a nautical engineer by trade, and they recruited Rudy to build river cruise ships before river cruising was a thing. Somebody had the concept that eventually river ships could actually overnight and hold people and do things and do longer itineraries, do longer vacations. So Rudy came there and he built their river cruise division, designed all their ships, designed all their itineraries. And that company is still around today. They're one of our competitors, and that is now Uniworld Luxury River Cruises. They don't even do tours anymore. So that's how Rudy got started in the industry. From there, he was recruited by a company that opened their doors in 1995. I'm guessing most of you have heard of this company, Viking River Cruises. Rudy Schreiner was the first president of Viking River Cruises. We all know, I think, who they are now. And then in 2003, Rudy decided, after putting Viking on the map, decided he wanted to own and operate his own river cruise company. And I think it's been pretty successful. So 17, 18 years later, we've got a fleet of 25 ships. We are the highest rated river cruise company in North America. The organization that Grace is affiliated with, Virtuoso Travel, which is probably the highest affiliation in North America with regard to luxury travel, have voted us 8 years running best river cruise company in North America. So that is who we are, but we are different. We're not on television. We just sell through the retail travel trade. That's why many people have not heard of us until maybe their travel advisor recommends us, as in this evening. So that's who we are. Ships are ranked some of the highest ranked ships in Europe. Every other year, Berlitz does a rating of over 320 river ships in Europe. And the last time they did the rating in 2019, none of us sailed in 2020. The last time they did the rating, we had 10 of the top 15 spots. So very well designed ships with regard to comfort and space. We tend to put less passengers on our ships than our competitors, giving you more room in the staterooms, more room in the public areas, and lower draft. When you do have low waters, we tend to not be affected as much. So very, very good fleet. And then let's get to the fun parts of the evening. So the concept of river cruising, again, is that we source all of our ingredients, all of our food stuff is sourced locally. Nothing is ever frozen on the ship. So we make all of our own breads, we make all of our own pastries, we actually make all of our own ice cream every day. We have ice cream parties a couple days during the week, which is a lot of fun. And the menu is ever changing. So I like to refer to the left side of the menu is called the chef's menu. That is the European menu that changes every single day. And breakfast, lunch, dinner. And you get, depending on where we are, what country are we in, what region are we in. So you get different options for beef, for chicken, for veal, for vegan, things like that. And it's just wonderful. It's gourmet food, like Grace said. But we also understand that sometimes people need a little bit of, creature comforts. So there is also the right side of the menu is the North American side of the menu. You can, if you get tired of sumptuous food, you can get a cheeseburger at lunch. You can get French fries. You can order a T-bone steak at night with a baked potato. So we get it, and you can mix and match. But the concept is, while you're in Austria, eat some of the best Austrian dishes. When you're in Germany, eat some of the best local German foods. When you're in Hungary, let's have some goulash together, that kind of thing. So the menu changes every day, and it's just wonderful. Most of it is quite healthy, but some of it is quite decadent. So you've got to get out and do your walking tours and your hiking tours and your biking tours, because there'll be ample beer, wine, wonderful foods, wonderful desserts, but most of it is healthy. All of it is fresh. This is we have 2 restaurants on board. We have one.
Steve, so for the ingredients, you mentioned locally sourced. So are the ingredients then going to come on board the ship whenever
Yeah.
we?
Yes, that's a brilliant point. This is a fun thing as a guest on the ship, because the timing is not always the same, but a lot of times as we're getting off the ship after breakfast to go on our hike or our walk or our bike tour, you will see some of the local vendors pull up in trucks and start to bring stuff on the ship, and it's mouth-watering, okay? And because the ship is a long, narrow tube, river ships are long and narrow, right? You'll see the entire crew line up on the gangplank, and the old fireman's carry, where you're bringing stuff, you're handing barrels of things, you're handing boxes of things, crates of things, cartons of things, and it goes in a line right into the ship and right through the guest lounge down into the galley. Okay, so that is exactly what happens. It literally, on a daily basis, something is brought fresh onto the ship. Sometimes you're looking at cases of wine, you're looking at kegs of beer, things like that. And other times you're just looking at ingredients. You're not sure exactly what we're going to have, but everybody's kind of talking about, well, what's that going to be? What's that meal going to end up looking like? So that is a great question. I appreciate you asking that. So yes. And then the dining experience, there's a main dining room that comfortably seats all on this ship that we're talking about this evening. It's 156 passengers, and the main dining room holds 160 comfortably. But we have a secondary restaurant that holds 28. So the main restaurant's never full. The main restaurant usually has about 120 in there at a time. And this is the specialty restaurant. Everybody gets to do this at least once. It's called a chef's table restaurant. And our head chef will come out and talk about, it's a 6-course tapas meal paired with local wines. So it's a wonderful presentation. It tastes delicious. The wines are wonderful. All, smaller portions, and then followed up by a sumptuous dessert. So this is a wonderful opportunity as well. Everyone, like I said, there's no upcharge at all. It's included. Everything's included in the pricing. And just a wonderful experience. And it's the rear of the ship. So many times we're sailing, and it's kind of you can see the panoramic windows there. Actually, in the image here, it looks like it's raining out, unfortunately, but it is a wonderful experience. So that's the Chef's Table restaurant. The Sip and Sail. Now, so you understand, our program includes your beer and wine with lunch and dinner, your champagne and champagne cocktails with breakfast, and people do take advantage of that. But also, we open the bar every night for 1 hour before dinner in the guest lounge, and we call this our Sip and Sail. And it's where everybody sort of congregates after the day's excursions, and people are comparing notes, and they're talking about what one group did over another group, and this and that and the other thing. What country were you in today? You can actually be in different countries on the same day, depending on which excursion you choose. And it's just a wonderful time. There's the piano bar there. There's a lounge there. And so if you do want cocktails on the house, if you do want spirits on the house, this is the time where you could indulge there. Just a wonderful atmosphere, a wonderful experience. The guest lounge is filled with love seats and sofas and really comfortable, cushy chairs. So it's really well done, and there's plenty of spacing, and you can, again, panoramic windows, floor to ceiling windows, you can see. where we're going, what we're doing. It's just a wonderful experience. And also, it is a time for us as operating the ship. The cruise director will usually come in at this time and announce what the entertainment is that night, what the program is later that night, what times the excursions will start the next day. So all the housekeeping, all the updates and announcements are also done during the sip and sail, and then it's off to dinner. We want you to know that we realize that we are feeding you very sumptuously, and there's plenty of good wine and beer on the ship. So we do have a full-time wellness instructor, and we do offer stretching and yoga and Pilates classes in the mornings. It is, we're not chasing after folks, but if it's something that you do at home and you want to have some semblance of a fitness routine, you can get up with us in the morning. We do stretches in the afternoon as well. And I mentioned this to Grace the other day, and yeah, her face lit up like that. We have champagne yoga in the evening. So I think it's less yoga and a little more champagne, but it's a lot of fun to do yoga by the moonlight while drinking a glass of champagne. So it's nice to have a fitness person on board. We also have a fitness room too on the ship. But here's where river cruising really has built its reputation. It is the daily experiences. It is the excursions, which are all included in the pricing. It's the options of doing 3 different types of walks are included every day or offered every day. We offer a hike every day. We'll talk about the hikes a little bit in a little bit. And we carry 26 to 28 touring bicycles on the ship. So you can see along these rivers, especially the longer rivers like the Danube and the Rhine, there are bike paths on both sides of the rivers. So very easy. We'll go out with you. We give you a little safety tutorial on the rules of the road and wherever we are. But most of the biking is along these bike paths. There'll be some biking in the towns, but you have 2 guides with you when you're biking. And just a great opportunity. Again, you can mix and match. It's not competitive. The hikes are not competitive. It's just a different perspective. Sometimes I like the fact that when people get back on our ship in the afternoon, some people did the biking tour, some people did the hike, some people did the wine tour, some people did the cheese tasting, some people were in Austria, other people were in Czech Republic. So there are all of these different opportunities every day. And at AMA, we break our excursions down into smaller groups, much more intimate groups. So there might be only 10 or 12 people per local guide, which is a wonderful way to travel and a wonderful way to see these beautiful cities and then these little medieval towns and villages. So just a great experience. And one last thing on the excursions, and then I'll move on. These days, everything's high tech. So in the old days, for people that used to tour in Europe, myself, I've been doing this for 35 years. In the old days, you had to stick close to the guide to see what he or she was saying. But now everyone has a Bluetooth earbud in their ear, little transponder around their neck. You can hear the guide from 50, 75 feet away. So you can be talking with your spouse, you could be taking photographs and still listening to narration and guidance, and just a wonderful way to be traveling these days. So that is really what makes river cruising special. And then the icing on the cake here is the fact that Grace has chosen one of our wine cruises. So it's our normal itinerary for the Danube for this itinerary. But in this case, we kind of scatter across the season these wine themed cruises, right? And they happen when we hire vintners from this country. We call them wine hosts. They will come over, and your excursions will be much more focused on wine tasting, wine drinking, grapes and cultivation of wines and comparisons. So the example I like to use is the Mondavi. So David Mondavi and his wife are one of our many wine hosts. They usually do 1 or 2 of our sailings per year. And what they'll do is they'll bring over some of their North American wines, and we'll match grape to grape. Old world wines of Europe to new world wines of North America. And it's a wonderful experience. Off the ship, obviously, you're going to wine cellars, you're going to small family-owned vineyards, and you're tasting the old world wines. We get back on the ship. They do a couple of wine lectures. They do some tastings. They do some pairings like that, and it's all fun. Really, is what it is. So, and what we find is not everybody, maybe only half of the people that come on the cruises come because it's a wine cruise. Some people just come because it's a great itinerary. It's a wonderful time of year and they like wine. They're not necessarily wine aficionados. So you don't have to be a big wine expert or anything like that. You just have to like wine. I like myself. I know some about wine. I'm not an expert. I know what tastes good in my mouth type of person, right? So it is a wonderful experience. We have all different types of vintners and wine experts from North America come on these cruises and and host for us on our behalf. And it's a lot of fun. And the other thing is I'll mention here is it doesn't mean you have to do the wine excursion every day. There are so many, and we'll go through it and you'll see there are other options. You can take a day and say, you know what? I had a lot of wine yesterday on the ship, off the ship. I take a little break. Maybe I'll get on the bike tour and do something different, and I'll catch up and have some wine at dinner. That's fine. That's what separates our company from many of our competitors is just the fact that you have these options, right? You can do a beer tasting, you can do a cheese tasting, there's all these different opportunities. You can do the hike up to the castle, you can do a bike ride. So this is really the differentiator for us. But the fact that this is a wine cruise and the time of year that it is just beautiful. It's the time of year where in this part of Europe, this would be considered their foliage season, late in October, where everything along the Danube is sort of gold and rust and orange colored. It's just spectacular. It's like being in New Hampshire, in the mountains of New Hampshire in, early October. It's just spectacular. Okay. So let's keep going. This is the actual itinerary on a map, obviously not to scale map, but just so you get a sense of where are we going to be. The cruise is a 7-night cruise. It starts in Budapest, Hungary, and it ends up in Germany, in Vilshofen, tiny little town of Vilshofen, Germany, where Ama owns the dock, and we own that. We've beatified the riverfront area there. It's just it's a 7-night cruise. It covers 5 countries. This is a wonderful cruise. First time cruisers to do the Danube and see 5 countries in 7 days is phenomenal. So everything about it is perfect. Grace, good job. The date, the pricing, we'll touch on the pricing later, but the itinerary, the time of year, the fact that it's a wine cruise, all makes it just a wonderful experience. And I mentioned we do wine tasting off the ship. This is just to tease you a little bit to say, if we're at an estate and we only visit, we don't go to any big wineries. We don't go to we're not big companies. They're small, family owned, been in the same family for generations and generations. You'll do a wine tasting. There'll be some cheese. There'll be some sausage, cured meats. Who doesn't love cured meats and cheese and wine and fruit? So this is the type of experience that you'll have if you want on a daily basis. But like I said, you can mix it up if you like. The ship, if you've not been on a river cruise, we'd like to just give you some points of reference here. A river ship, all the river ships on the Danube have the same look because they all have to fit through the same lock system. So everybody's ship is the same length, the same width, depending on what river you're on and what the government tells you your specs are. In this case, on the Danube River, the ships are 443 feet long and 38 feet wide. Because we have Rudy as our CEO and president, he was the first person to develop these twin balcony ships where most of our staterooms have 2 balconies. Full balcony where you can sit outside, and then a French balcony where you can slide the window open. But just a nice high-tech ship, comfortable, lovely, glides through the water. There's no seasickness. You can barely hear the engines. You only hear them when the captain starts the ship up. Just a really nice experience. And then typical stateroom looks like this. About 80 to 85% of our staterooms would have these, what we call twin balconies. Good size. I mentioned earlier, we only put 156 passengers on a ship this length. Many of our competitors would put 190, 200 passengers on that. And that just means the staterooms would be smaller. They get more folks on the ship, less space for everybody. But just a wonderful, wonderfully designed ship. If you do the cruise only, and we'll talk about pre and post in a little bit, but cruise only is 7 nights. That's fine. A lot of people do cruise only. You'd fly into Budapest. You'd fly out of Munich. That's how it works. Grace takes care of everything. She does your air. The transfer is included in the pricing. It's so easy. You get to the airport. We meet you right out of customs. We put you in a transfer vehicle. We bring you to the ship. It's perfect. We start in Budapest, Hungary. The first day, you can get on the ship the first day anytime. You can get on the ship in the morning, the afternoon. People are coming from all over North America, so they're coming in at all different times. That's fine. We meet everyone. We bring them to the ship. And the welcome, the embarkation dinner, you meet the captain, you meet the first mate, you meet the entire staff the first night. That's actually Captain Jan. He's one of our more famous captains. He'd probably be #1 in the fleet. He gets to pilot whatever ship he wants. So I think this year he's the captain of the AmaMagna, which is our newest, largest vessel. But it's a very nice first evening. And the nice thing about it is that for 156 passengers, we have 55 crew member. And the first morning when you go to breakfast, they will know everyone's first names. I don't know how they do it. There's a technique that they're trained on, but they know everyone's first name. And then by the next morning, they know whether you're a tea drinker, a coffee drinker, what you drink in your coffee. Do you drink beer for lunch, wine for lunch? And they remember everything. It's wonderful. It's just such a genuinely friendly experience that you feel like they're part of the family. They're your friends. By the end of the cruise, everybody's a lot closer. So it's a really nice experience there. In Budapest, there are so many things to do. If you're not familiar with Budapest, it is the capital city of Hungary. It's actually 2 cities historically, both sides of the river, Buda and Pest. So much history here. It's pretty much a walking city, meaning that there's not a lot of vehicular traffic in the old parts of the city. We do walk across the bridge and do both sides of the city. We visit castles, we visit markets. This image here that you see are the Parliament buildings, the Capitol buildings that are illuminated every night of the year. And the first night of the cruise, the first full night of the cruise, the captain will bring the ship back and forth in front of the Parliament buildings, and people are on the top deck taking photographs, drinking champagne, getting to know each other. It's just a really, really cool way to start your river cruise. This is Bratislava. Slovakia, capital city of Slovakia, was once under Soviet rule until the early 90s. We take you into the old part of the city. On this, you can do the Coronation City tour. You can do a tasting here. You can do a wine tasting. You can do the Taste of Slovakia, or you can do the castle hike. This is my favorite. I love this castle. I love this image of this castle. If you look carefully in the foreground, you'll see that the castle they built walls around it. And the common theme that you'll see on any river, these old medieval rivers in Europe, is that all of the towns and cities were protected by something on the high ground, off the banks, usually a castle, maybe a fortress. Sometimes the monastery doubled as the fortress. So usually our hikes are to the high point, the high ground along the Danube, where you can visit a castle or a monastery or a fortress, and then look down over the town or city. It's a really cool view. So usually the hikes are a couple of miles round trip. Obviously going up is got a little bit of a grade. But coming down, you're going to come down through the main part of town. You'll get to see what other folks see on the walking tour, but a different perspective. Plus you get to see you get to see a castle that maybe somebody else did something else that day. But this is my favorite, personal favorite excursion in Bratislava. When you get outside of the old quarter of Bratislava, it becomes much more 1970s Soviet era looking, you know, so it's not as pretty as some of the other places we visit. But the old part of Bratislava is beautiful and very interesting. A lot of culture here. This is Vienna. This is the biggest city that we're going to visit on this itinerary. Most people know about Vienna, the capital of Austria. There's all kinds of things to do here. We do spend a day, we overnight, and the next morning. So there are so many things to do here. There's a bike tour, there's a city tour, and then, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but the concept of river cruising is you're in the town, you're in the city, we're docked somewhere, we're not going anywhere, you know where we are. So take your free time and use it. You know, for me, the city tour, the local tour, is to sort of get a lay of the land. I'm listening to the narration. I'm taking notes in my mind, figuring out, talk to my wife and say, where do we want to go back to? When this tour breaks up in Vienna, we run shuttles back and forth from the center part of the city back to the ship every hour from the main cathedral, right? So in my case, when I was on this itinerary with my wife, we stayed in Vienna for another 4 hours. We skipped lunch on the ship and we did our own lunch. We found a nice Viennese cafe. We had a lovely lunch. Then we got up and we went and we looked for something non-touristic. We looked for the, you know, where are all the locals getting their pastries? Where is the line around the block for the strudel? You know, so that kind of thing for the Danish. And that's what we did. We also visited some museums, and we saw there's a collection of beautiful white stallions that they're not in Vienna always. They travel around Europe, but they happen to be in Vienna the time we were there, so we went and saw that. So whatever you're interested in, and this is why it's important to use a travel advisor, because if you have a particular interest and say, you know, hey, Gracie, the full day that we're in and the evening that we're in Vienna, you know, we're interested in this. We're interested in classical music or this kind of museum or this kind of shopping, and Grace can help you do that. So when you have your own day, your own afternoon, you can do some of that stuff. And a lot of people do that, and that is a good way to do it, to be with a travel advisor. Obviously, this is known, Vienna is known for the classical music, the opera, and things like that. The one excursion that's not included on our trip is a visit to a Mozart and Strauss concert in the downtown in the evening. We don't include it on the trip because, unfortunately, a lot of Americans don't appreciate classical music. And when we used to include it on the itinerary, a lot of people would go and just use their cell phones and not be good patrons. So we just now, it's invitation now. If you want to do it, you can arrange it with Grace in advance, or you can arrange it with us on the ship. There is a fee. It's about 65 euros. We take you back and forth. There are drink shits involved. The seating, I will tell you, we take the first 10 rows of the opera house, and it is spectacular. I did it with my wife. I'm not a huge, again, just like I love wine. I'm not a huge devotee of classical music, but I know enough about Strauss and Mozart to know that was really good, right? It was a wonderful experience. So that's available to you as well. And then on this day, now we talk about the medieval towns here. This is so that was the last big city. So Vienna is the last big city that we visit. The rest of these towns and villages and small cities are like out of a storybook, right? So on this day, we're in Wiesenkirchen, and you have all these options. You can go to Dürnstein and the Melk Abbey. You can do a Wiesenkirchen to Melk bike tour. You can do a walking tour, and then the Melk Abbey, and then they have wine and apricot tasting. So Dürnstein is supposedly, according to the people in Dürnstein, the capital of apricots in all of Europe. And we went there, and my wife fell in love with it, and we came home with apricot brandy and apricot jams. And, you know, I don't even think we like apricots, but it was so fun and interesting that we were all in. And then the hike is to the Again, the theme being, the hike is usually up to the fortress. That's also an interesting thing to do. But look at this image here. I put this image in the presentation tonight because this is on the way from our ship. Now, so you understand where the ship docks, in most cases, with the exception of Vienna, okay, where we do coach you about an 8-minute coach into the center of the city because Vienna is a big city. With the exception of Vienna, the ship docks, you get off, and you're at where you're going to be in 5 or 10 minutes. And on this day, we walk to Dernstein, and we have permission to walk through somebody's vineyard, a local vineyard. We walk through the vineyard to get to Dernstein. And Dernstein has no cars. It's just bicycles and people walking around. And it's that old. It's probably 12th century town. And it's just so interesting. But this is typical. Look at all the steeped vineyards along the hill as it goes up from the banks. And these are still owned and run by families. These are not big corporations. These are family-owned vineyards, wineries. The challenge is when you do all these wine tastings, folks, is that if you find something really good, it might not be sold here in the States because it's not a really big operation. So my wife and I got to the point where we were just taking pictures of labels and then putting it into an app that showed you if you get that wine here, and if you couldn't get it here in the States, we buy a case of it or we have it shipped to something like that. So and it's a fun thing to do too. So, but this is typical of what you're going to see along the Danube. There's Dernstein, again, a small town. You can see the fortress on the hill up in the background, right? So it's I don't have words for it. It's so interesting. It's so cool. But just a nice little walking town. This is the Melk Abbey. This is a wonderful Benedictine Abbey. It's still run by the monks there. I think these guys have hit gold here. I think they're doing pretty well because this is such a well-run. It's just outside of the Vatican. I've not seen more. Medieval and Renaissance art in one place than here. You could spend 2 days at this place, and the grounds are beautiful, botanical gardens, and it's pristine, and there's so much 15th, 16th century art there. Rooms and rooms filled with art and libraries, and just it's exquisite. So it's a really nice visit. This part of the cruise, we're not sailing that far between excursions, so there are actually 2 excursions offered this day because we do something in the morning, then we have lunch, then we sail a bit upriver, and then we have another excursion. So a wonderful day, all small town visits, and then in the evening we have an excursion off the ship. This was just added in 2019. This is a special exclusive wine tasting in the Grand Castle. I did this before we made it part of the itinerary. We were sort of testing it out. We had all of our salespeople from around the world on the ship. We did this one evening, and a true castle. I was telling Grace the other day that if you go down a couple of levels into the wine cellar, there's actually a dungeon down there from like the 13th century, which is kind of cool and kind of creepy at the same time. But there's live music there, there's wine tasting. And I want people to understand, in our group, we had some people that either had enough wine that day or maybe weren't wine enthusiasts. You can always get a soft drink. You can always get beer wherever we are. We don't want you to think that it's wine or nothing. It's not like that. But this is a wonderful experience, and it's exclusive to AmaWaterways. So when we're there, it'll only be the guests from the ship. There'll be no other people from the outside or from other groups. So just a wonderful private experience. And then this day in Linz, we will dock in the small city, large town of Linz. Very nice walking town. There's time to walk on your own here. And this is the square here. I actually recognize that woman. That woman there with the pink and the yellow was our local guide, my wife and I's local guide. I didn't choose this picture because of that. She just happens to be in it. But she's from Linz, and she took us around. She took us up to Salzburg that day. But when we came back, she said, if anyone wants to walk in the plaza with me, I'll just show you around the town that I live in. And we took her up on that. And that was just her just saying, hey, you've been with me all day. Can I show you a few other things? I thought that was very nice. That was a very nice touch. She's the local guide for us. And on this day, Now, here's where you can be in two different countries the same day. So some people will opt to go up to the hills, where the hills are alive with the sound of music, go up to Salzburg and see where the famous movie was filmed. By scene, you can see where Christopher Plummer proposes to her, and you'll see where she sings "Delwa Dear," Julie Andrews, and it's a beautiful. Salzburg is a beautiful, beautiful town, regardless of where the movie was filmed. But the drive up there into the mountains is wonderful. It's picturesque. We do stop along the way at a beautiful lakeside village. Stretch your legs, get some photos. Just a wonderful day. It's a full day. But if you don't want to do that, you can be in the Czech Republic on the other side of the river, and that you can visit Český Krumlov. And that is, I'll show you that right here. This is referred to as Little Venice by the Czechs. It was back in the days of Czechoslovakia. This was a very prominent small city where people of wealth live, great shopping, great dining, wonderful. You can see the architecture is very different. So this is also a nice visit. So it's kind of a neat thing that you have a tough decision to make on this day. You can't do both. So some of the people on the ship will do this, some will do Salzburg. People get back on the ship for dinner, before dinner, and compare photographs, right? It's such a neat thing, and it's always good to lament and say, well, the next time we go on the Danube, I'll do Chesky or I'll do Salzburg. So that's a nice problem to have. But this is a wonderful opportunity too. And then day 7 is Passau. Passau is one of the best walking towns along the Danube. We do a walking tour here. We do a bike tour. Once again, there's a common theme. We do a hike to the Oberhaus Fortress, but just a beautiful town. Look at these lovely buildings, all different pastel colors, all different shapes and sizes, but yet all pressed together. It's almost like something out of a storybook with the big cathedrals and steeples in the background. Just a beautiful town. It's kind of hard to see in this image, but if you look closely, you can see along the waterfront you have cafes and bistros, and I never limit myself to the 3 meals on the ship. I always, if I see a cafe and I have some ample time, I might sit down and get a plate of mussels with a glass of wine on my own, or with my wife, or with a colleague. So there's always those opportunities as well. And I think you'll find that the spirit will just move you in many cases, that you're like, wow, let's look at that. Look what that guy's got on his tray there. Look at that, look at that tall lager that gentleman's drinking. So there's wonderful opportunities here. Passau is just a beautiful, beautiful town.
Steve, for the hikes, you had mentioned hiking to the castles or abbeys, whatever. Does the hike and reaching that attraction, that spot, does it include admission into the castle or to the church or the
That's a
abbey?
great question. Thank you for prompting me there. Always, yeah, always includes admission. Yep, that's how we do things. We're not just looking from the outside. It includes the castle or the cathedral or the abbey or whatever it is. Always there is the inclusion. And we didn't mention yet, Grace. We didn't mention the walking tours so much, but we want people to know that we break up walking tours into pacing or ability. We have a gentle pace walking tour for people that might have some mobility issues. We have a normal pace walking tour, which most people would fit into that category. And then we have a very active pace walking tour, maybe some people that have more energy and they just want to get around a little quicker. But it is good to know, because we do have a lot of generational travel. So sometimes you'll see grandparents in the gentle pace tour. And then again, most of the folks would fit into the normal pace walking tour, and when we break them into smaller groups, you don't see that many people in the active pace. I never really understood the concept of wanting to see more by going faster. That's not ingrained in me, but we do offer that, and we do get some folks do that. So, but yes, the inclusions are always part of our excursions. Yes, thank you. Okay, and then we'll take a break from wine for one for one afternoon, and when the ship ends, the end of the cruise itinerary is in this wonderful little town of Wilshofen in Germany. It's about 45 minutes east of Munich, small port town. And we own the dock here. We've got a permanent beer tent here. And we, before dinner, instead of the typical sip and sail, we invite people to our beer tent on land. And we have local people come in and greet us. The mayor usually comes in and greets our people. And that's the local wine queen, usually somebody from the local school who's been it's important in Germany to, the wine is the beer rather is very important, and usually the town has elected each year a beer queen, and they come in with the typical oompa band, and so there's live music, there's beer. We serve champagne and wine too. Again, if you're not a beer drinker, and soft drinks, the big oversized pretzels, and we sit at these long picnic tables and we just have a blast.
Wow.
And people are exchanging. By this time now, it's only 150 people on the ship. So Pete, you've made new friends. You've come with some friends. You've made some new friends. People are exchanging email addresses and phone numbers and so on and so forth. It's the last night on the ship, and it's just it's a lot of fun. If you're going in the other direction, it's the first day. Everybody's meeting each other from the airport. They're meeting each other, having a beer before the embarkation dinner, and it's equally as fun, right? So, but this is a really nice experience. The town is such a charming little town. You could probably see the whole town in 25 minutes, but it's just the beer tent is just a really nice experience for the last evening. And then, so we don't leave certain things out. Some people would like to spend more than a week in Europe if they're going to do a European vacation. We do offer the opportunity to do pre and post with us, or you can work with Grace to do something different, and that's fine. It's all good. But we do offer a pre-cruise 2-night extension in Budapest if you want to come in early. And if you do these pre or post extensions, you will still be with AmaWaterways employees. The cruise director will meet you at the hotel, the assigned hotel that we book for you. And we'll have an AMA desk there, and we have excursions there. We offer excursions, we include breakfast and so on and so forth, and transfers. So that's a good thing to know, that if you take a longer itinerary, you're still with the same cruise director for whether it's 7 nights or 9 nights or a total of 12 nights or what have you, you're with the same people with AmaWaterways. So that's kind of a neat thing. But here's the one that I think is the most important. If you're going to go all this way, Prague is probably one of the prettiest cities in Europe, architecture-wise. Culturally, it's important. Just a really, really different, unique city. It's not on the river, so it's not part of the itinerary. It's about 2 hours northeast. Where we end on this itinerary. So we include, if you like, as an option, a 3-night extension here. And if you're going to do, let's say you didn't have either the budget or the time to do both, my recommendation, especially because you're spending a day on the ship and an evening in Budapest, my recommendation was going to be, is if you only did one of the extensions, do the Prague extension. It's a really special city. So just my 2 cents there. Just a beautiful, just a really special city. Really nice. And then Grace, you did a great job here. You squeezed us on this a little bit, I think, and a wonderful itinerary. It's far enough out that people can put it on their calendar and think about it. But for now, we are offering, Grace is offering, a $750 per person discount for those who book meaning deposit, just a deposit of $400 per person by July 31st. So that's a fair amount of time to think about it and contact Grace and talk a little more about it. But a very nice upfront discount in exchange for a deposit. And then for AmaWaterways, again, different from some of our competitors, we don't require full payment up front. We never have, we never will. We don't carry any debt on any of our fleet. We own our ships outright, so we don't need your money 2 years in advance or 18 months in advance. So it is $750 off if you deposit by July 31st. After that, there's still a discount, but it won't be as deep. And then Grace has put together a wonderful landing page or section on her website that goes through everything, right, Grace? I mean, you
Yeah,
have
day
the
by
daily,
day.
yeah, day by day photos,
Mhm.
layout of the ship, all kinds of stuff on her website. And actually, this is just a presentation, but that will take you right to that'll land you. That's the link to the website. So maybe you can share that someplace else as well. But that would be a good idea. I would recommend. It's more information that we have on our website for the itinerary. So good job, Grace. So that's it. That's all we want to say about the offer. And then we can open it up now to Q&A. So if anybody has any thoughts, feedback, questions, anybody want to, you can unmute. I can stop the share.
I have a dumb question.
There's no such thing. Go ahead.
Do you have to dress up for dinner?
No.
And I noticed in all the photos, the guys are wearing, pretty much business attire.
Yeah, those are probably the people that work on the ship. The answer, first of all, it's not a dumb question. It's another one of our differentiators. If you know Rudy Schreiner, I've mentioned him a couple of times, our CEO. He looks like he looks kind of goofy in a suit. He doesn't wear suits, so he doesn't make anybody dress up at dinner. So no, it's laid back. You can dress any way you like. What you'll find for breakfast and lunch is everyone's dressed for how they're going to go out for the day. So shorts, golf shirt, whatever's comfortable, walking shoes, sneakers, sandals, whatever you want to wear. That's what people are in the dining room in the daytime and in the morning. In the evenings, people might change a little bit. Gentlemen might put on a golf shirt. I work for the company. I'll put on a blazer. People don't even call it a blazer anymore, a sport coat. But I'd be one of the few people. Don't laugh at me, Grace. I'd be one of the few people in the dining room with a sport coat on. And listen, some people still like to dress up for dinner, and that's fine, and they fit in fine. But I think these days most people just want to be comfortable. We would frown on flip-flops and shorts at dinner, but you can. I've worn jeans with a nice sport coat. If my bosses are on the ship, then I might put on something a little nicer. But for our guests, we want you to be relaxed. It's your vacation. It's your money. You dress the way you want. Okay. So that was a good question.
So you can be as active as you want. And do people have to sign up for the activities, or can we do that on board the ship, or how does that work?
So it's both. It's either or. You can sign up in advance, but honestly, Hi, Betsy. Hey, Betsy, how you doing? Good to see you. I just noticed you there. Sorry. So it can be either or. It would depend on the itinerary that you're doing, what's there. The 99% of what we're offering on this itinerary, you just walk up and do it. Nothing really sells out. If we get too many people sign up for a particular walking tour, we just bring another guide and split the group again, right? So the one thing I would say, if people are interested in doing the one excursion that's not included, which is the Mozart and Strauss concert, you can do that in advance, because honestly, maybe a quarter of the ship will do that. Maybe a third of it. Maybe 40 people will do that. 50 people. Not everybody's going to go into town to see a classical music concert. And there is entertainment on the ship every night. Some nights it's very good. Other nights it's a little kitschy, if you know the word. You get, my joke. Look at Betsy laughing. Here's my joke about this itinerary. There's a night on this itinerary where 3 young women come on the ship. Two play the violin and one plays a classical guitar, and they are phenomenal. I mean, you could hear a pin drop in the room. They're that good. But there's also a night where like people from Hungary, local Hungarian folk troupe comes on, and they do Sinatra covers. It's It hurt my ears. Okay. My dad, who was a huge Sinatra fan, would have rolled over in his grave. Right. So on that particular, and listen, we're not offended. We get, it's local entertainment. They don't travel with us. We don't have enough space for them. So on a particular night where there's something that doesn't appeal to you, we want you to get off the ship. You will know always the ship is important till midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever. Just be back on the ship an hour before, 45 minutes before, something like that. Go back into town, do something. That night my wife and I went back into town, we did something. There was another night where for some reason people in Europe think that Americans love ABBA, that we just want to hear ABBA all the time. I don't know where did that come from? I don't know. And this is the only time
We do.
We do.
That's the funny thing, because this is the only night my wife and I did not agree. So it was a gentleman and two women, and they came on the ship and they were doing covers of ABBA. And I was like, just shoot me in the head. I don't want to, I said, no, let's get off the ship. And she said, no, this is going to be great. So it was, not one of my better nights, but a lot of people liked it. Right. So, but
was one of the women Meryl Streep?
No. If it was, I would have stayed. But so I went to the other end of the ship. I went on the sun deck, and my wife was listening to them. So, but there's something for everybody. My point is that there's something for everybody, and we're not offended. It's your vacation. You're in Europe. You should be in Europe. The ship is beautiful. It's lovely. The staff is wonderful. The food is great. But you're also there to be with the locals too, right? So on the night where we got off the ship, we went to a little wine bistro, and we found the couple that ran it, that owned it, were originally from Minnesota, and they had stopped here 20 years ago and fell in love with the area, and a couple of years later opened this bistro, and it was us and maybe 6 other people from the ship, and we had a blast. They were so nice because we're from the States. They were bringing out all kinds of wine for us, and we were chatting with them. We had such an authentic experience, right? I mean, just, you're in the middle of Hungary and you're hanging out with people from the US that are business owners, right? So I thought that was really cool. So you never know what you're going to find. So this is the idea. This is the adventure. This is the experience, right? So,
Steve, I have a question. So we're overnight in Vienna. If, say, a group of us decide that we want to go back into town that night, and you mentioned that there was a shuttle, is the shuttle continually running? And then what happens if, say, we find a bar that, that Scott found, and we close it down? Is that, how does that work with the shuttle, or do we?
Shuttle doesn't run all night. So here's what I did. So I work for the company. So when I go on these itineraries, I will sort of do a test run of what if the shuttle's not running? My wife and I got on the underground, and I think I might have told you this the other day, Grace. The underground is brand new. You could eat off the floors down there. The trains are brand new. It costs us because it's about 10 blocks, but from the riverfront, from the where the ships are docked, it's not the greatest area in a big city like that. So we do like to shuttle people into the center of town. The shuttles run till about 6 o'clock because we have dinner at 7 on the ship. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, what you're saying, a lot of people will do that. So some people will be in town for the concert. Other people just say just let us know what you're doing. Hey, I'm not going to have dinner with you on the ship tonight. Myself and a few other couples are going to go into town. We're going to eat at a restaurant. We're going to go out and party, and we'll be back later. You can take the underground. You can take a cab. That's fine too. It's not that far. It is a good idea to let us know, because the ship is very secure. To get on or off the ship, your key card that gets you in your room was also your transponder that gets you on and off the ship. You've got to tap out and tap in to get on the ship. We need to know where you are at all times, right? So, but you can certainly do that. And on other times, I've been on the Danube other times, not with my spouse, but with my sales companions, my colleagues. And yes, we do go out at night sometimes. And yes, they are sometimes late nights. So we sort of tested a lot of this out, if you know what I mean. So, and some of us come back instead. I'm older now. I can't hang out. I can't really hang out with the younger guys when they go out, when they leave the ship. I've got to be back by like midnight. But some of them come in at 2 a.m. Some of them come in at 4 a.m, and they look a little ragged at our meetings in the mornings on the ship. So, but yes, you can do that. But it is important. You'll have an app on your phone. You'll have something printed in your stateroom every morning. But these days, more of us are using the app on our phone. It shows you by radar, where's the ship right now? And so you'll know what the itinerary is every day, every hour, how long the ship is in port, and so on and so forth. And so you understand, on a river cruise, if let's say you, for some reason, once in a while, once a season, somebody will get pretty plastered and miss the ship or something like that. It's hard to do. You're just going to get in a cab. It'd be an expensive cab ride, or get on a train, and you'll meet us in the next port. It's not like we're going thousands of miles. We're going 20 kilometers up or down river. It's not the end of the world, right? It's not like if you're on an ocean ship and you get left on an island somewhere and there's no way to get off it until you got to fly to the ship or something like that. So it would be really hard to miss our departure from a particular town or city, especially when we're overnighting. So that's a great question. But you're in Vienna again. Rule of thumb: we're not offended. We think we're doing a good job if people are going to the concierge desk and saying, "Can you get me a cab? I want to eat at this restaurant." Or I think I told you the other day, Grace, about a couple, a travel advisor and her husband, that had looked up this very special, off the beaten path choral concert at
Yeah.
an old cathedral. It was 10 euros to get in. And we get back, and maybe it's the next day, and I'm talking about our experience at the Mozart concert, and she's telling us about this choral, and she's got like a little video of it on her phone. I'm like, damn, that looks better than what we did. That's really cool. So again, why you use a travel advisor is you can do your own homework and then run it by Grace or run it by Betsy. Betsy's on the call, and get vindication or verification rather of, hey, is this a good idea, and how do I get tickets, and so on and so forth. So we do want you to get off the ship. We want you to be safe. We're not asking you to go out and get stupid drunk in Vienna. That's not the idea either, right? But you can certainly leave the ship, go out with friends, dine on your own, go out dancing. It's fine. Okay. These are very safe cosmopolitan cities. Everybody speaks English, along the Danube. It's part of everybody's trade. If you didn't speak English, you wouldn't work at a hotel or a restaurant or a gift shop. Everybody speaks English, right? So, yeah, it's fine.
What about food is included with the cruise? What about snacks? Do you guys have snacks?
We do actually. It is we do. So between lunch and dinner, if we're sailing or if there's downtime and you're on the ship, even as people are coming back onto the ship, usually in the afternoon, there's tapas put out. There's sandwiches, there's spreads, there's soup put out in the afternoon before dinner, after lunch, before dinner. And then if you stay on the ship, or if you come back to the ship later, after the entertainment at about 10:30, you will see wings, mini hot dogs. You'll see a lot of sort of like pub food in the
That's good.
Finishing their last, we get it. We totally get it. People are finishing their last beer or wine and they're getting a little hungry. So yes, we serve. So you can eat, and there's also an early risers breakfast. Breakfast is 2 hours in the morning. You can come and go anytime you like. There's not a set time for breakfast, not a set time for lunch. You can come and go as you please. But for those people that do get up early, we have early risers, get up at 5:30. Maybe you want to do a jog around the track on the top deck, and maybe you want to do some yoga on your own or hit the fitness room early. There's an early risers breakfast. It's a setup outside of the main dining room that has coffee and tea and croissants and fruit and yogurt and stuff like that. So this again, we've been doing this for a while. We've kind of thought of everything, right? So.
Is it open seating for dining, or do people need to make reservations?
You don't need reservations. You do need reservations for the one specialty restaurant, and that is done when you choose your excursions on the ship. You let us know what evening you want to eat in this specialty dining restaurant. Okay, but other than that, no. Now this season we're going to start sailing again in July. For this season, we think that we will ask people when they come on the ship, at least for July and August, okay, who do you want to dine with? Are you here with friends? Are you here with family? We don't want people moving all over the place for the beginning of this season. We did sail last season on the Rhine, not with US guests, not with Canadian guests, but with German guests, German speaking guests. And it was great experience for us because COVID was sort of raging through Europe, but we got all the protocols down. We moved people from July through November up and down the Rhine with not one single instance of COVID. Okay, and that's because we had the protocols, we followed them. The ship was at, I think, 2/3 capacity, so 100 passengers, socially distancing. No buffet. We've got rid of the buffet stations. There are no more buffets on the ships. We refitted all of our, based on our experience last year with this one ship, we refitted all of our ships to take out the buffet areas. The tables are further distance now. There are a couple of serving stations, but we feel really good about our experience last year, and that we feel very confident that July and August, yes, will be, I think the governments have just come out and said July is going to be 75% capacity. We feel good about that. Excursions will be 12 to 15 people per excursion. We already do that. That's our normal excursion, so we're good with that. And then the other thing that I would add here is that because we have experience in some exotic destinations where we're always careful about what people are eating and bringing back on the ship, the Mekong River, we've been there for many years. When people get back on the ship in the Mekong, we take your shoes off. You take your shoes off and we sanitize them for you, right? Because you've been walking around, the Mekong, the rice paddies, and all of these things. You're doing all these really interesting, culturally immersive things. But we make sure that you're taking the right precautions. We don't let you eat anything locally off the ship. Same thing in Africa. We're on the Chobe River in Africa. So we have a lot of experience in sanitizing luggage and sanitizing people's shoes and making sure people are aware of their surroundings and so on and so forth. So I think this has served us well. And we do think that by September of this year, at least we're led to believe by the EU, that these protocols will be pretty much gone by September. But that is an excellent question. And we're ready to go. I think 2022 is filling up quickly. The inventory for the year is sold at about 70-75%. 2023 is doing very well for us. People are looking further out these days, and that's understandable. We've sold about 35% of our inventory for 23, and then it's really close in now. Let's see how we do. We've made this commitment to start sailing in July. Let's see how we do. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun. I'm looking to take my family to France at the end of July. And that'll kick it off. So we'll see how we can do. Okay. Anybody else?
What happens as far as if the river is high or low? What are the contingency plans to get around that? We took a river cruise a couple of years ago to France, and the river was very high that year, and they couldn't actually get under the bridges, so they had to do a lot of busing in a couple of the cities.
High waters are really challenging because there's not a whole lot you can do. The only thing we have in our arsenal for high waters is that especially the newest ships, but the newer ships, anything built from like 2013 on, everything on the top deck is retractable, comes down, all the radar, everything comes down, everything, everyone's got to come off the sun deck and everything goes way down. It's kind of neat. We haven't experienced that on the Danube since 2013. There was usually it happens, by the way, usually in the spring, because you get a huge melt off of snow, let's say. And in 2013, in March, the beginning of the season, the Danube just crested. It was really high. What we do in those cases on the longer rivers, Betsy, is that we have ships that if you start at one side and the other will meet at some place that's not passable, and we'll have to move people around. That's the best way we can do it. Coaching sometimes can help. Low waters is where we really excel. This is one of the reasons that Rudy left where he was and started his own river cruise company, because he designed our ships to have very shallow draft. We don't use a lot of really heavy materials You don't see Italian marble on our ships. You don't see a lot of mahogany woods. And that's because he wanted the draft to be exactly 3 feet. 2 years ago, when there was low waters on the Danube and the Rhine, it was 2018, 3 years ago now. Many of our competitors really struggled with just what you were saying. There's a lot of busing, a lot of swapping out of people from ship to ship. We didn't have that experience. We were able to, so I was on the Rhine with a group in, I want to say September or October. And in some stretches, I could see the bottom of the river. It was maybe 3.5 feet. And we were still sailing. We couldn't sail the same speed that we wanted to. So maybe we were a little off on our excursion times, but we completed almost all of our itineraries that year. Out of like 1,020 itineraries, I think there were only 2 that were canceled, and they were on the lower Danube, the gems of Southeast Asia, because many of the ports were closed. It didn't make sense for us, but we do the best we can. The high waters tend to come beginning of the season, depending on what kind of winter they had and how much rain there is in the spring. There's really not much anybody can do for that. Just deal with it as best you can. And if it's something that concerns you, don't book. And you'll find that this a river cruise season is priced such. The late March dates have the best prices. So, but if you're worried about high waters, don't book in late March. You book in late April, May. I think the best months to cruise are May and June. Late April is also very good. September, October, beautiful. Into first 2 weeks of November, also beautiful. So that's kind of the way around it. And the seasons for cruising, honestly, the seasons have changed. As you know, when I first started going to Europe professionally in the 1980s and 90s, you would never see days in France where it was in the middle 90s, closing in on 100 degrees. It never happened. A lot of the hotels still don't have air conditioning, right? Because they don't know, they're like, what does that mean? But now you'll see now that some of the summer months for us, if you're looking to get deals or something like that, sometimes in July and August, you'll see some nice deals from the river cruise companies, because it's so warm in certain parts of Europe that the fall and the spring are actually better options. And exactly what Grace has done here, because she's looked at the whole calendar, is that the end of October is beautiful for touring. It's nice. It's low to mid 60s in the daytime. It's 50s in the evenings. It's perfect for bike riding or hiking or walking around, especially if you're going to be drinking wine. So I do like, if I have my drug, I don't always get a choice. I work for the company. They tell me when to go, I go, that kind of thing. But if I have a choice, my druthers, as my grandmother used to say, October, May, those are the 2 best months. September, June also are very good months. But so I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. I apologize for that long-winded answer. So
thank you for that.
Okay. So you can tell I just love what I do. I could talk about this for hours. So I'm sorry. So
Can anybody hear the Harveys?
yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yay! We weren't sure. We're very excited. So we will be in touch with Grace for sure.
Yay.
Awesome.
And since Grace mentioned me by name, Scott,
I did, yes.
I know how to rent a boat to catch up with a ship.
And we're with you guys.
If I get myself into trouble, I
Yeah,
will
if
know my
we
own
miss the
predicament.
boat, Scott, you're gonna have to pay for the Uber.
As long as he doesn't throw his back out, right?
Understand?
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa.
2 of them.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get me a little fiat like that.
I don't understand if it's 30 minutes before disembarking, getting ready to leave, you'll get a call on your cell phone.
Oh, I know.
The first minute, where are you? Right? So
it's tongue in cheek. I mean, it's a wonderful presentation, and Matilda and I have cabin fever like so many other folks, and we were fortunate enough to go on a tour of Florence with Grace, and that was right before the pandemic hit Italy, and it was consistent with what you said, just a culturally immersive experience, and that is something to really really fits our expectations.
Right.
And I commend you on just a great presentation. And, we look forward to going. And I
Perfect bookend.
promise to behave.
Yeah, we'll make it. If you
No,
get him
you
and Grace
don't.
No, you
together.
don't. Don't commit to things you can't live up to. I was there watching you in Florence.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's not going to behave. Oh, but it's going to be great. We're going to taste and toast our way through 5 countries. I plan to also be a part of the post over in Prague, and I'm eyeing pre also in Hungary. So okay, so for pre and post excursions or extensions, excuse me, does that include the transfer? I'm assuming it does. So it's
Yeah.
the lodging, and
Yeah.
does it include activities too, like the cruise does, or no? Is that an
It does.
additional?
What it doesn't include is it includes a breakfast at the hotels. But
Okay.
we find that people on the land, people tend to want to do their own things in these cities. So we don't
Yeah.
include like lunch and dinner. And plus there's so many options. If we included dinner, it would be at the hotel or something like that. And there's so many other options. So
Yeah.
what we do that I think is really cool is we try to keep the hotel to the same standard as the ship. The ship is a luxury ship. So the hotel is usually a 4.5 to 5 star hotel, convenient to where you want to be.
Yeah.
We get good rooms. And like I said, there's always going to be an AMA desk in the lobby, almost like a concierge desk. There'll be certain hours, they won't be there 24/7, but there'll be certain hours where one of our people will be sitting there and answering your questions and helping you. But there are excursions included, but it's not quite the same experience, because you might get, a third of the ship doing that and a third of the ship doing something different. So not quite as many people, but you'll
Yeah.
still, if it's pre, you'll meet some people that you'll see their AMA luggage tags or something like that, and you'll start make some friends before you get on the ship. If it's post, you'll probably already be friends with half the people that are on the excursion at the extension at the end. So
Yeah.
it's done well. We always do transfers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and so for all of you, if you do the pre or the post, I'm definitely doing the post, but if I do the pre as well, you'll also have just an additional layer of protection, because I'm going to be there, and I'll also create the app, and so you'll be able to access me whenever.
I see the Harveys doing the post for sure.
Yeah.
We have to figure out Prague, because although we do the post, we have a place to live in Prague. So
Oh,
So happy hour.
I'll have to figure that out.
Happy hour at Ginger's.
Yeah, that's why I use a travel advisor.
Yeah.
I'll help you with that.
Yeah.
I think we might have a home in Budapest.
he does it.
I'm not quite sure.
He's being very silly now. It's that silly time of night.
Should I stop the recording now? I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you,
thank you.
everybody.
It's going to be great. Looking forward to experiencing this part of the world with you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, you're welcome. This is fun. I
This
told
is
you,
fun.
Grace, I told you we were gonna have a good time working together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. I don't want
Thanks
to
very much.
that we need to. Yeah, we've gone over in time, so I apologize for that. So thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
all.
doing
This
it.
is great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, going to end the meeting now. So have a good evening.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Cheers.